for the Prime Minister, seeing as everyone seems to be talking about Christmas, what gift have you got for Nicola Sturgeon this year?
And as for a present for Nicola, I mean, well, there's all sorts of things that will arise naturally from the UK's getting a new relationship with our friends in the European Union. But one thing that may be of particular interest to the people of Scotland is that they will become the proud possessors of hundreds of thousands of tons of fish, shellfish, crustaceans, and I don't know whether Nicola's a keen fish eater, but she'll have more than she could possibly consume herself for a very, very long time to come. So how about that? Will that do? Okay, thank you. Let's go to...
The assets of the Scottish financial sector today.
Well, the assets, the broad brush assets in the Scottish financial sector, Scottish domiciled entities, about 10 times Scottish GDP.
Which is in absolute terms?
Would be north of £1 trillion.
Should there be a no vote in 2 weeks' time and then a yes vote in the proposed referendum to leave the EU, where would that leave EU citizens living in the UK and UK citizens living in other parts of the EU?
I think it's disingenuous of Patrick to say that no means out and yes means in, when actually the opposite is true. No means we stay in, we are members of the European Union, and yes, if the Conservatives win the next election, which frankly isn't looking likely by the polls, but we're trying our best, that we will allow people to have their say.
Question them. Somebody came to my door and asked about pensions. I brought up the subject of pensions. There was a glazed look came over their face when I pointed out that the pension system backed up by 65 million people and suddenly transformed into 5.5 million people. Give us an answer to that. Give us something that I could confidently say, yeah, I'll vote yes. Answer, none. Not only on that issue, but on other issues, question them. Ask them to provide the evidence.
Right across the world, these are great things that we've done together in the United Kingdom. The BBC, the most respected broadcasting institution across the world. People who are being persecuted in far-flung parts of the world rely on the BBC to give them critical information, impartial information that keeps them alive. But also our pound.
Norway aren't doing terribly badly at the moment, it should be said. But let me move on to the other.
Yeah, but the Norwegians say to me, you know, they've said to me very clearly, if you want to play a part in Europe, play a part in Europe. If you want to be run by Europe, have our position, because they basically take dictation about what the rules are. You know, I want
the Norwegian elite. It's not the ordinary Norwegian people who are doing pretty well at the moment.
Well, they have they have as much oil as we do, and only 4 million people rather than 60
helps.
million
Agreed.
people, so that makes
Agreed.
a difference. Well, they have as much oil as we do, and only 4 million people rather than 60
helps.
million
Agreed.
people, so that makes
Agreed.
a difference.
But the hope is that we get something like that in terms of its effect on economic growth. That works out at about £100 billion, roughly, of what the economy is worth now. Now have a look at what they're saying we will get if there's no deal. As you mentioned, 9.3%. Now that would be a massive hit to GDP, something north of £200 billion. It's like removing the output of the whole of Scotland. Something north of £200 billion. It's like removing the output of the whole of Scotland. Something north of £200 billion. It's like removing the output of the whole of Scotland from the UK economy.
I do think it pretty monstrous that you have free care for the elderly in Scotland and no tuition fees, no top-up fees, when you still get considerable subsidies from the rest of the UK, and in particular from England, and in particular from London, which contributes net 18 billion to the UK economy. So, you know, I do think that it might be a good thing if the Scottish Parliament used its tax-varying policies, tax-varying powers, to pay for them themselves.